What's going on, everyone? Thanks for checking out this video. Today we're going to look at the new RS bike from GForce. This one starts at $12.99 and it's got some good features like hydraulic brakes, class 3 speeds, suspension both front and back. And I'm going to show you the bike up close today so you can see all the parts and pieces, and then I'll show you some ride footage, maybe give you a better feel for what the RS is like and if it's a fit for you. So let's check it out. All right, let's take a look at this new bike from GForce. They named it the RS and it has what they call magic suspension, which is 4 suspension shocks in the rear end. Now this is the step over version and it comes in gray, but you can also get a step through version which comes in white. There's also 2 different battery options. If you get the 15 amp hour battery pack, it costs $12.99 for the bike. And this one has the 25 amp hour battery pack. So this is $14.99 as tested. But now let's start walking through all the components so you know what you get for your money. Comes with 20x4 fat tires, similar tread pattern to what I see on most fat tire e-bikes. They give you a little bit of hum going down the road. It is a quick release skewer on the front wheel and it's 180 millimeter hydraulic disc brakes. I don't see any branding on the levers or on the caliper, so I'm not sure what brand of hydraulic brakes. It's 180 in the front and 160 in the back, which is a good setup because your front wheel has more of the stopping power. So I didn't have any problem with the brakes at all. Even though they don't have a brand name on them, they seem to work pretty well. Now you do get a front suspension fork, but there's no compression adjustment to it. It's either locked out or it's in the open position and free to spring. You get 2-tone black plastic fenders, both on the front and on the back. The rear rack is of course included because it is part of the frame. This is a really beefy frame on this bike. And then you also get a full lighting package. You got your headlight here. And then at the back, you've got both tail light and brake light. No turn signals though. But you've got all the essentials, and I really appreciate when they put a brake light on the bike. I think that's the most important one to have. Now I mentioned that the frame is pretty sturdy. I mean, it looks really heavy duty, feels pretty heavy duty as well. The carrying capacity of this bike is 400 pounds. That can handle a pretty heavy rider. But surprisingly, the weight of the bike is not as high as you would think it'd be. You look at this frame and you see how much is going on there, and you got 4 shocks in the back and a motor and a big battery, but the bike only weighs 81 pounds. I mean, that's not lightweight, but for what you get here component-wise, I would expect it to be a lot heavier. So I was pleasantly surprised with the weight, 81 pounds. I mean, it is a manageable weight. And I feel like this bike is set up for shorter riders. If I put this seat the whole way down, let me drop it to the lowest position. And you can see, it could go lower, but the seat post hits inside of the frame in here. If you cut some off the seat post, you could probably take that seat down at least another inch, maybe 1.5 inches. But in the lowest setting here, this is a 30-inch seat height. That's very low for a fat tire bike. I had my wife try it out. She's 5'4" and she could flat foot this bike, no problem. I really think somebody, maybe even 5 feet tall, could probably ride this bike easily. Now myself, on the other hand, I feel a little bit big on the bike. I got some clips of me at the maximum seat height and also the minimum seat height. And I pretty much rode the bike at maximum seat height at all times because that's 36 inches. And I'm 6 feet tall. This bike felt a little bit on the smaller side for me, which honestly, I kind of think it's a good thing because there's not enough e-bikes out there for shorter folks. So good job on that GForce. I think that's actually one of the biggest selling features of the bike is that the seat goes so low and a smaller person can ride this. Now the battery system is a 48 volt system and I got the bigger battery pack. This is 25 amp hour. You can also get a 15 amp hour and then the bike costs less if you get the smaller battery pack. It clicks in from the other side and there's also a switch to turn it off and on. So you got to remember that when you get on the bike, you got to turn the battery on first before you turn the bike on. For your gearing, you got 48 tooth up front, and then the rear is a 1428. And for pedal feeling, you got pretty good feeling up till maybe the 25 mile an hour mark. Then you start spinning a little fast. I took a video clip of me pedaling the bike at, I think I was going like 28 to 30 miles an hour. Your legs are moving pretty good at that point. But just for around town, I had no issue with the gearing setup. The pedal assist system is a cadence sensor. You got your derailleur guard here, 7-speed Shimano derailleur. It's a Shimano tourney, I believe. And also hiding in the back wheel is your 750 watt geared hub motor. I believe it peaks at 1300 watts. Now also in the back, we have our magic suspension, which is their term for a whole bunch of shocks here on the back end. You got 4 shocks. You got these big springs, one on each side, non-adjustable. And then you have these shocks here, which are also non-adjustable. Neither one has any kind of branding on them. I think that was a little bit of a miss there, not having the ability to adjust the spring rate of the shocks. Because now you're asking the bike to handle very wide range of rider weights with no adjustability here. So I'd love to see them add that in the future, just a little bit of adjustment here on the rear end. But in general, for me, at 180 pounds, I'll say it did smooth out the bumps, but it didn't have an overwhelming amount of travel for me. I think if I was a little bit heavier, I might have been able to squish the suspension more. And if I was lighter, it might have felt a little bit too stiff. But you definitely noticed it was there, much more comfortable than a hardtail bike would be. Now, I did see on the website the other day, they were offering a promotion. If you bought the bike, you got like a front basket. It does have the mounting points here on the front and also a rear basket. So it could be a nice little cargo bike if you're looking to make that out of it. But let me show you the handlebars up here. So you got rubber grips with a palm rest, a twist throttle like every bike should have. Perfect. 7-speed shifter, brake levers, display screen here. Let's turn it on. So you got 3 buttons, up and down, and then the power button underneath here. There you go. Basic display I've seen on a bunch of other bikes. It's nice. It's big, it's large, it's readable. It gives you everything you need. And if you go into the program, you just hold up and down. There's only a couple things you can change. So P1 is like your screen brightness. I'll keep it at 3, which is the max. P2, I don't really know what P2 is. And then P8, which I set it to 75. That's your speed in kilometers an hour. It came set to me as, I think, like class 2. It might have been set as a class 3, actually. But I went in here and I opened it wide open and just told it no limit at all. And those are really the only couple things that you can change in the display. And that's about it for all the components on this bike. Now I think it's time we go out and take a look at some of the ride footage so you can get a little bit better feel for what it's like being on this one. All right, folks, let's talk about the ride experience on this RS bike from GForce. And I gotta tell you, so ergonomically, I'm 6 feet tall and I feel like I'm a little bit too tall for this bike. I'm riding right now with the seat at the maximum seat height, 36 inches. And I mean, I cannot get my legs fully extended to pedal. It doesn't really bother me because that's not how I ride anyway, but my hands feel kind of low. I like to be real upright and tall when I ride, so I'd want the bars up, you know, another couple inches. I'd probably buy a 3-inch stem riser to lift those bars up. So I'm gonna say at 6 feet tall, I can ride this bike, no problem. But if I was gonna ride it routinely for long periods of time, I'd probably make some adjustments to the ergonomics of it to get my ride position where I like it. And I thought it was funny, they list the rider heights on their website as 5'7" to 6'3". I mean, I feel big on this bike at 6 feet tall. I mean, a 6'3" rider is gonna feel really, really big on this bike. 5'7", I think you'd feel perfect. I think that's a perfect height for this. And in my humble opinion, I say the rider heights for this bike would be 5 feet even to about 5'10". I think that's the ideal range. 5 feet to 5'10" is probably what's gonna fit this the best in its stock form. So I'm confident somebody 5 feet tall could ride this thing. It's really built for a smaller stature person, in my opinion. But let's see what she'll do here speed-wise on this flat ground. Let's punch it up. Go assist 5. I'm not gonna pedal, I'm just gonna hold the throttle. We'll go around this curve and we got some straight stretch. I already checked, the speedometer is accurate with GPS, so what you're seeing on the screen is accurate speed. We are at 23, 24, 25. It's slow getting up to speed, but it gets there. 27, 28. It's holding 28. A little over 28 miles per hour on the flat level ground. I've seen it on some long straight stretches where there's a little bit of a downhill grade. I've hit 30. 30.6 I think is the most I've seen out of it. So there you go. You can get, from my riding around on it, 25, 26 is pretty easy. You get in some longer straight stretches, you can hit 27, 28. A little bit downhill, you're going 30. So pretty decent speed out of it. The pedal assist is a cadence sensor and it's speed based. So pedal assist 1 gives you like 8, 9 miles an hour. 2 will give you like 12 or so. Pedal assist 3, 15, etc. The throttle is not linked to your pedal assist. So anytime I hit the throttle, it'll allow it to open it up to full speed. I like that setup. I want full power out of the throttle whenever I hit it. So that's a good system. I like how that works. Now the next thing to discuss is the rear suspension, the magic suspension. Is it magical? Is the suspension magical? I don't know about that. I mean, I can't say that I feel much difference having 4 shocks or springs in the back compared to having 2. They feel very similar. I mean, I weigh 180 pounds. I'm able to compress the suspension, right? It's got movement. It's not an overwhelming amount of movement, but it moves. And if I'm in the grass going through a bumpy field or I'm running over cracks in the sidewalk, it soaks all those up. It takes the sting out of all those bumps. if you're hitting any big, large bumps, it's still gonna kind of launch you out of the seat a little bit. So I find myself wanting the rear springs to be a little bit softer. And the same with the front as well. The front suspension fork, there's no fine-tune adjustment to it. It's just either free to spring or it's closed. And I can, bounce up and down like that and bottom the shock out. So I find myself wanting to adjust the front a little bit stiffer and adjust the back a little bit softer, but it doesn't have those adjustments. All right, we designed another magic suspension test. Let's hit these blocks. There you go, you get to see it in action. All right, one more time, more speed this time. I don't know. It eliminates all the bumps. One more? Let's do one more. There you go. There's your suspension in action. Not too bad. Better than a hardtail. Way better than a hardtail would be. But I've had some that were a little bit softer, where it just compresses and takes all of the force. The front forks do a pretty good job. All right, let's show you a quick acceleration here. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Try out our brakes. They work really good. We made it to the hill climb, so let's show you what this thing can do on the hill. Now, we're on a 750 watt e-bike. Typically, a 750 will climb this hill 22 to 25 seconds. Spoiler alert, this is going to be much slower. I already tried this once before, but I want to demonstrate something about the power delivery of this bike. So here we go. Let's do the hill climb. 3, 2, 1, go. So very slow off the line. That's how this bike is programmed. It's got a real gradual, slow start. I think it's set up to be user-friendly. So when I'm starting mid-hill like this and just asking the bike to do all the work, you can see it's struggling with it. We're going 6 miles an hour. It's having a hard time getting itself up to speed. All right, now we're getting into the steeper part of the hill right here. This hill's like, I think, 12% grade at the steepest, and it's really gonna have to work for it here. I mean, we're coming down to a stop. I'm gonna give it one pedal to help it. There you go, I give it like 3 pedals and time. So, I mean, what was that, like 40 seconds? I don't know. Way slower than a typical 750. And you might be saying to yourself, okay, well, gosh, this thing has no hill climb power at all. Well, let me, I guess, explain why that is. Let's go back down the hill here. All right, coming back down the big hill, we're gonna check brakes at the bottom. No name brakes, I don't know what brand they are. Very nice stop though. Very smooth, a lot of feeling in the levers. The brakes have been great. I can't complain about the brakes at all. But back to what happened on that hill climb. The issue this bike has is that it doesn't give you power at low speed. It will not give you the full power out of the controller until you're up over like 12 miles an hour. So on that hill climb where I'm starting from a dead stop in the middle of a hill, it can't get itself to 12 miles an hour, and therefore it can't get all the power out of the controller. It's kind of, I feel like it's kind of set up backwards. At a spot like that where I'm struggling, I need more power to climb the hill, it's actually giving me less. All right, I'm gonna hold the throttle and pedal. So we're at 18, 16, 16, give me 15, 14, 12, 11, I had to put my foot down there, 10, I can't pedal, 10, it's not giving me enough, 10, 11, 12, 11, this is tough, 10, 12, where's the 22 amps I need? 15, 16, 17, 18, now we're rolling, 19, 20, there it is. So I'm not saying that you can't take this bike off-road, it's perfectly fine doing this. Let's take a little trail here through the woods. No problem riding something like this, right? Pipelines, forestry roads, a trail like this. Looks like maybe a UTV type trail here that we're on, I don't know. But perfectly fine doing this. Ample power, this is super easy. We're going slightly uphill. All I'm saying is if you get into some really treacherous stuff with some steep hills where you need that super down low torque, that's not this bike's happy place. But doing something like this, perfectly fine. So how are you going to use it? That's the question. How are you going to use the bike? Now we also need to do a range test on this bike. I've put on 12 miles today so far, and the energy bar, the battery bar, is still showing full, even after 12 miles. So I don't know how accurate that is. We're going to find out. We got 25 amp hours of battery pack to use up. Let's see how far we get. I'm going to guess it. I'm going to ride mostly throttle only and pedal assist 5. Probably not much effort into the pedals at all. That's how I'm going to do this range test. I'm betting we probably hit about 40 miles, be my guess. We'll see. $30-mile-an-hour suspension test. Here we go. You ready? Oh, it's like butter. Very smooth. I like it. That's nice. Woo! All right, I dig it. Now, it's pretty far into my range test when the sky opened up and rain just started pouring down on me. This was not a gentle rain. This was a deep, soaking rain. Everything got soaking wet, including all my camera gear and microphones, and I lost all my audio from this, but luckily the video is still recorded. And I chose to ride the 2 or 3 miles home in the soaking rain. I didn't want to pull over and take cover. I just decided we were going to test the rain resistance of this RS bike. So we rode home in the pouring rain, and I got every piece of this bike completely drenched in water. All right, we made it back safely out of the rain. It's still pouring right now. I got myself completely drenched. I'm leaving a puddle here where I stand, and I got this RS bike completely drenched as well, not on purpose. I won't ride in rain like this on purpose. It's only by accident that I ever get a bike this wet. They don't like water, right? So I want to show you when this happens. When I get caught in a torrential downpour like this and I get a bike thoroughly soaked, I want to show you what I do to dry it off. First thing is I'll hit it with a towel, get all the majority of the water off the bike, and then I'll use my leaf blower to basically blow dry the bike as dry as I can get it before I put it away. And that seems to have served me well in the past, so that's what I would suggest doing. All right, we're back the next day to finish out our range test. I've gone a total of like 33 miles on this charge so far, and my voltage is sitting at 43.6. We are getting low on the battery pack here. I think the voltage cutoff is probably like 39, 40 volts, somewhere in there. So we're getting real close here. I'm gonna keep just doing loops around this neighborhood. One positive about this bike is that the motor is incredibly quiet. You hear the tires humming, but the motor is silent. That's nice. Okay, my battery bar is flashing a little bit here, and I'm down under 40 on the voltmeter. All right, I think we have finally reached the end because I'm at maximum speed right now. 6 miles an hour is all the faster this bike is carrying me. 39 volts, and our mileage, let's see, 56, and I started this charge with 19. So is that 30, like 37 miles I got out of this single charge, and I got the pedal home now. We're pretty much totally out of juice. 37 miles, and that is, you know, me doing all my testing and hill climbs and then just going out and riding it pretty much full bore. I mean, I was not kind to this thing. I rode it like a motorcycle, throttle only, majority of the time, pedal assist 5. No regard for battery conservation, just burning through it as fast as I can. And 37 is what I got out of it. Well, hopefully those clips gave you a better feel for what the ride experience is like on the RS bike. And now I'm just gonna kind of wrap things up and tell you what I think you need to know about this one. And the things I'm gonna tell you kind of have their trade-offs. I think you'll see as we go. So the first thing is the price. It starts at $12.99. And for that, you get a full suspension fat tire bike with, you know, decent class 3 speed, a 750 watt motor and hydraulic brakes, a decent sized battery. Seems like a pretty good price point to start out. But you've also got to realize that I think the components of the bike also reflect that price point. You got a Shimano Tourney on the derailleur. I'm not sure of the battery cells. I don't know the brand of the brakes. There's no adjustability in the rear shocks or the front shock. So, you know, if you're someone who's looking for really high-end components on a bike, well, then you're going to have to step up your price point. Now, the next thing I'll say is I think this is a great bike for shorter riders, something I don't get to say very often about electric bikes. Usually they're so huge that if you're 5'5" or less, you really struggle to get on the bike and ride it. But not this one. It feels like it can accommodate a much smaller rider. But on the flip side of that, if you're 6'2", you're gonna feel probably pretty big on this bike. Now the bike also has some pretty good speed. 28 miles an hour on this bike is definitely achievable. But on the flip side of that, you only get the power out of the bike after you're sort of up to speed. It really kicks in after 12 miles an hour. So if you're doing like a really steep, low speed hill climb, it's not giving you the full controller output. So you're gonna have to help it if you're climbing a really steep hill. But this RS bike definitely has its selling points. It's got a 400-pound weight carrying capacity. The brakes felt good. It was smooth. The motor was super quiet. It was very rain resistant. I got caught in that terrible rainstorm. She's still running. It also has a very gentle takeoff on the throttle, which is something my wife always appreciates. She doesn't like it when she jumps on a bike, hits the throttle, and it's really twitchy or jerky. This one's not the case. It's a very slow ease into the power. But in my ride experience, the only things that were missing for me were I want a little bit more power, a little bit more torque at the lower speed, down low for climbing hills. And then I was hoping to have an adjustable suspension. But you got to figure out how you're going to ride, what's important to you as you pick your e-bike. If you've got any more questions on this one, hit me up in the comments. I'll do my best to answer if I can. I'll put a link to the bike below if you think this is something you're interested in, so you can find it easily and read more about it. And as always, I hope you found this video helpful, informative, maybe at least entertaining. If you did, consider hitting subscribe. Coming back for more. Thanks. All right, now I know there's one more thing you want me to try. Let's get rid of the seat. We're gonna add a suspension seat post. There we go. There we go. Quadruple suspension. Only bike with quadruple suspension.